Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name's Haley, and I love reading. Okay, today, October 8th, my favorite author, Chuck Palahniuk, is releasing a new book entitled Shock Induction. And in honor of his new release, I thought it would be fun to rank every single book of his because I have read them all. I am a fanatic when it comes to Palahniuk. I discovered him 2 years ago, and in those 2 years I have read all 22 books he has written. If he's written any others than these 22 books, I apologize. I did not know about them, which would be insane. And if you know them, leave them in the comments. His coloring book is not included in this. I have not read that, but everything else I have read. And I do believe I have read everything he has ever written. So today I'm going to be ranking in the order of 22. I was originally going to do a tier list for this, but I would put most of these in S tier, so I feel like having 2 in a lower tier and then the rest in S tier would not be as entertaining as me struggling to try to put them in an order. So I think I got the order down. When I get to the top, it's really hard because I love so many of these books. The top number 1 is a number 1. Most of you, I've talked about it a lot, so number 1's not gonna be a surprise. But where I put other books like Fight Club, now that's gonna be what the interesting bit is here. So without further ado, let's get into my ranking of all 22 books Chuck Palahniuk has written. Okay, this book, number 22, is the only book by him I actually didn't really enjoy. And you know what? That's insane because I didn't think Palahniuk could write anything that I wouldn't enjoy, but he did. And this is the book. Tell All is in our 22 position. Don't get me wrong, I still tabbed it because Palahniuk is amazing with quotes. I love eat up, just devour most of his quotes. So there's still gonna be a couple quotes in here that I love, but it's gonna be in the 22 spot. So Palahniuk in all of his books has like these repeating themes where he like says the statement over and over again with slight variations to go along with the plot. Well, this one's like version of that was pop culture references, a lot of which I didn't get, and I think that is why I didn't enjoy this book as much, because I couldn't understand a bunch of the references because I live under the rock, and also I was born in the year 2004. So, but yes, so this has our last spot. I will share my favorite quote from it. Some of these books have so many quotes I could not share them all, but for this one, since it's in the last position, I will give it a little bit of an homage. And the quote is, "We're only supporting characters in the lives of each other." That was one of my favorite quotes from this book. But overall, probably my least favorite. I will say the cover, the fact that the Tell All is, anyways. But yes, this is my least favorite Chuck Palahniuk book. I think I still gave it 3 stars because I have an issue and I cannot rate anything below 3 stars even if I slightly enjoyed it. But yes, overall, 22 position, we have Tell All. Okay, in our 21st position, we have Adjustment Day. This book, I don't know if I like, have you ever read a book where you like kind of zone out while you're reading it and you don't really know what you read or remember what you read? That is this book. And that is why it's so far down, because I'm sure if I reread this and actually paid attention, I would enjoy it, but I didn't, and I don't know what it is about. I have one quote in here and I shall read it to you because it is good. "A happy past cripples people. They cling to it with nowhere better to go, nothing to improve upon." But yeah, I think it was also very philosophical if I remember correctly. I vaguely remember reading this book in cafes, but that's about all I have. So this basically, if I remember correctly, it just follows like politicians and like 2 different sides with their beliefs in a war, and it's like, I don't know. As I said again, I don't really remember what this book is about and I should reread it for sure. But that is why it's in such a low position, because I don't remember it. So in 21 position, I have Adjustment Day. Okay, our 20th position is where it starts to get, what do you mean for this? So hold on to your horses and let me explain. For my 20th position, I have Fight Club 2, not the first one, Fight Club 2. And this is a graphic novel, so has art in it. But the reason I have this at such a low position is I think Fight Club needs it to be a standalone. I don't think we should have expounded on what happened after Fight Club, because Fight Club is its own entity. I understand that he wanted to, like, he had more to say about the story and how it was like one of his first works, and he wanted to expound upon that, especially because it became so popular. But I didn't like the whole thing of like Marla's pregnant and now the narrator has this weird sad life. Like, I didn't like that. I want to live in my world with the narrator and Tyler Durden as they are. Same with Marla. I want them all to stay in their own little thing and not be expounded upon. So reading this just kind of pissed me off because I'm so connected to the way they were in Fight Club and the way they need to be stayed in Fight Club in my mind. So that is why this is so low. Not because it's bad, like, it's still a good story. The art is amazing, but I want Fight Club to stay Fight Club. So this is a sequel to Fight Club. And if you are interested, 100%, it's a cool graphic novel, just not for me, because I have a connection to the original. So in our 20th position, we have Fight Club 2. Okay, 19th position. So Chuck does not do a lot of sequels or prequels. Most of his books are just standalones. So this is another sequel. My two sequels happen to be right next to each other. And I would prefer, like, if he was gonna write a series, I'd want him to write like a series, not just a 2-book standalone, like a duology. And this is the second book in a duology. The first book is actually pretty high up on my list, but this one is towards the lower just because I feel like it was rehashed. So without further ado, the 19th position is Doomed. This is the sequel to Damned, and it basically follows a girl who she gets sent to hell. She's like 13 and she gets sent to hell, and it's who she meets in hell, which love the premise. And this book, it just follows her more in hell. Well, the first book was more her getting to hell, and this one like follows her in hell, but I feel like it was rehashing the same things that already went down in Damned, and that is why I enjoyed this a little bit less. I still loved, don't get me wrong, I still loved it because it had the same Palahniuk flair, it had the crazy writing, the crazy characters, the crazy stories. It felt like a repeat of a book I've already read, because sequels are sometimes, but that's why I didn't like it as much. It's also the only mass market paperback, and I can't find a regular paperback copy of it, and it pisses me off. I also have all of his books in softcover except for 2, and that also makes me feisty, but that's okay. I also only have 1 tab in this one, and it says, "Nothing except deep misery leads to real success." So yeah, overall, I loved the concept, I loved the writing, I loved all of it. It just felt repetitive, and that is why it's the 19th position on my list. Okay, for my 18th position, I have The Invention of Sound. So this book is, in my opinion, the most mid-Palahniuk book out of all of them. I think I should have put it below Doomed. See, this is my issue, is I love a lot of the books, and I'm bad at finding faults in books. Like, if I get slight enjoyment from it, 3 stars, which a lot of people do not agree with that, and that is fine. But this is probably one of the most mid books I read by him. Like, nothing stood out to me, nothing made me think about it all the time. Most of his books I do think about on the daily, but this one didn't really have anything about that. I'm gonna read the little blurb to you. A father's decade-long search for a missing daughter. A young woman about to engineer the perfect scream, the most dangerous secret Hollywood has ever kept. So that's the little blurb. Also, this is a lot like Adjustment Day. I don't remember a lot about it, but I do remember, like, nothing really stood out about it, and that is why it is in our 18th position. Okay, this next one. I am surprised I rated it so low, but we're getting into the category of everything's an S tier, and trying to rank them was the hardest thing I've ever done. From 17 up, I love all these books. I cannot find faults in these books. All these books were 5 stars. I had to rank them somehow, and this one ended up in the 17th position. And that is Not Forever But For Now. This is the book that came out before his one that came out today. And this book actually is really special to me because he came to Denver, Colorado for his tour, and I got to meet him. Not a lot of people get to meet their favorite authors. I did. I did not. I was awestruck. Like, I could not say anything. I did not say anything to this man. I stood there smiling like a dumbass. He signed my books and then he left. But yes, so this is the book tour I went on for him. This obviously is a signed copy because it's from the book tour. Coolest thing ever. His next book tour, he didn't come to Denver, so I cannot go to it, sadly. I wish I lived in Portland with him, because you know what? I could go to all of his book tours, but that's okay. Anyways, so I got to meet him for this book. This book follows two brothers. They're very fucked up brothers, and it's just their little fucked up lives. A lot of his books, they're not really necessarily plot driven, but there's a lot of social commentary in them, and there's a lot of interesting character studies to be made, and this book is no exception. Palahniuk, check the trigger warnings. I'm just gonna say that for all of these books. Check the trigger warnings. A lot of things in here. This one has a lot of sexual abuse, but anyways, two brothers, and yeah, lots of shenanigans, lots of fun, but it had to be ranked somewhere. This is one of my only hardcovers from him. I wish it was softcover, but it was also signed, so I'm gonna be quiet about it. But yeah, so in our 17th position, we have Not Forever, But For Now. Okay, 16th position, we got a weird one. Not the weirdest one. The weirdest one is higher up because I think about that one on the daily, but scratch that. Right now, we are on 16. 16 position is Snuff. This book, the lady at the cash register, she's like, oh, that looks interesting. She reads the back. Because I bought this when I was like 17. I looked like a toddler though. So I was like, oh, do not read this. I'm going to read you the back just so you can experience what she experienced when she read this, seeing my tiny ass there. In a crowded green room of a porn movie production, hundreds of men mill around in their boxers, awaiting their turn with the legendary Cassie Wright, an aging adult film star. Cassie intends to cap her career by breaking the world record for serial fornication by having sex with 600 men on camera, one of whom may want to kill her. Yep, you did hear that right. Insane book. This one is higher up than the other one because it's stuck with me. Like, scenes from this book will just pop into my head every once in a while, and it's like, whoa. But yeah, that's pretty much the plot. That's pretty much what it's about. There's also like another weird thing of like, you know, some of these men think that they might be her long lost kid, and they're aligned to have sex with her. There's a lot of things in Palahniuk's writing, but he does the weird and obscure. He will go where no other author is willing to go, and that's why I love him so much. You never know what you're going to read about, and that is going to be seen in a lot of the other books today. But yes, in our 16th position, we have Snuff. In our 15th position, we have Diary. This book is basically about a woman who gets locked in a room by her husband, and she's writing a diary. And there's lots of twists and turns, like with most of Palahniuk's things. This book is also cool because when I first started getting into Palahniuk, my mom for Christmas decided to get me a signed copy. This was a signed copy that's dedicated to somebody else. So it had like a dedication to somebody else, and I think that's hilarious. So, you know, wherever this guy is somewhere, I have his book and I'm cherishing it. I'm loving it. Yeah. But I had a different copy of Diary that was in better condition, but I threw it out because I didn't throw it out. I donated it. But yes, this book also, I loved this was one of the first books I read by him. And that's why it's so high up, because I have like nostalgia already for reading this book. This book also has so many quotes that like I think about on the daily. I have a couple of them tabbed. Let me read you one or two of them. Like one of the quotes here. It's so hard to forget pain, but it's even harder to remember sweetness. We have no scars to show for happiness. We learn so little from peace. Like, his quotes are just so good. Like, I would love to pick this man's brain. But yeah, this book it's very nostalgic for me because of that reason. And it's one of his earlier books as well. So it has like an older flair to it, and I just love it. So for our 15th position, we have Diary. Okay, 14th is Make Something Up, Stories You Can't Unread. This is a collection of short stories. He doesn't really do a lot of collection of short stories, but this is the only fiction collection he has, and it has a bunch of like interesting stories. I thought it was like a fun read. I'm not usually a short story type of person because I like a plot that continues to go, but I got to learn like a lot of fun little anecdotes from him in this book, and I really enjoyed that. But yes, I liked this one because there was a lot of little anecdotes, a lot of little fun stories. My favorite stories from this are the two animal-based ones, which are How Monkey Got Married, Bought a House, and Find Happiness in Orlando, and Why Coyote Never Had Money for Parking. Those were fun. I loved those. But yeah, it's just a fun, if you want to get into Palahniuk, I would recommend starting with this because it's just short stories and it gives you a little bit of like an introduction. So yes, in our 15th position, we have Make Something Up, Stories You Cannot Read. 13th position is the last book I read by him, and that is Consider This. This is his book on writing advice, but it has so many cool stories from his life in it, and that is something I can't get over. It got dark. It got dark all of a sudden. Wonder what happened. Ignore it. Anyways, number 13, as I was saying, I love this because you get a look into Chuck Palahniuk's mind and what goes into his writing and what has influenced him over his life that makes him write the way he does. As well as that, you also get little, he shares fun stories about like tours and stuff he's done. And oh my gosh, some of the stories in here, think about all the time, like literally all the time, not an over exaggeration. If you are an aspiring writer especially, I 100% recommend Consider This because it has amazing writing advice. On top of like fun anecdotes, it has crazy good writing advice. So yes, number 13 is Consider This. Also, sorry about the lighting. I had to take a little bit of a break, so now it's dark out, but I have fun lighting, so it's a little shadowy. I know, I'm not really set up to film at night. I usually film in front of a window, so I have a nice light, but now it's gone, so work with me. Okay, number 12. Number 12 is a movie. I know what you're thinking, and you're wrong. Choke. You thought Fight Club, didn't you? Not yet. Okay, Choke is also a movie, much less known movie. I think it's still funny, but not as good as Fight Club. Nothing's as good as Fight Club. I will get there, but yes, 12, Choke. This follows, the main storyline is a guy who he goes to fancy restaurants and pretends to choke so a rich person will save his life and then they'll pay him. He also works at like a Renaissance festival that goes year round, which is hilarious. A great anecdotes, great fun time. This one is another one that was like one of the first ones I read, so I have a lot of nostalgia around it, as well as I forgot a little bit of a bit. Victor, our main character, is also a sex addict, so he goes to sex addict meetings. There's a lot of, side note, Chuck Palahniuk puts a lot of like group meetings, like AA, you know, anonymous meetings in his stories because he used to go to them. He used to just go and listen, and then that's where he got some of his stories. So some of the little anecdotes in his stories are true. Like he got from actual people. That's insane. He didn't make them up. First time I found that out, jaw floor. That's all I'm saying. Like, the fact that Fight Club could be based around truth, insane. But yes, this is another one with a sexaholic meeting. But yeah, overall, it's just fun. It's funny. It's depressing a little bit, but I love it. It's such a good story. It's just a Palahniuk story. If there's ever a Palahniuk story, this is a Palahniuk story. So in my 12th position, I have Choke. We're getting down to the wire, people. Number 11. Number 11 is Lullaby. Lullaby. The cover's just a dead bird, but Lullaby. So this follows, there's basically this lullaby that if you sing it around somebody or if somebody hears it, they die. And it becomes like a plague of this lullaby. And it follows a woman in the book. But, yet again, another one that there's just certain scenes that stick with me, and that is why it's so high up on my list, because I think about this book all the time. Like, I think about some of the things the woman says. I think about the idea that words could kill and how you can't really stop yourself from hearing something. Like, if it's broadcast on the radio, you're just dead. That's insane, and that's a scary concept. But yes, this book, another classic in my opinion. There's not a lot of words for this one. I just think it is all around an amazing novel, and I'm putting it above Choke because I think about it more than I think about Choke. That is why it is in my 11th position is Lullaby. Okay, before I release number 10, I don't want you to get your panties in a bunch. Let me explain myself first. Number 10, we have Fight Club. Y'all thought it was gonna be way higher. Fight Club is my all-time favorite movie. I watch it 3 to 4 times a year because I am obsessed with it. I actually read it before I read the book. It was really funny story with Fight Club. I have loved the movie. I loved the movie for a couple years, and then I started reading Palahniuk's work, not realizing he was the author of Fight Club, not realizing Fight Club was even a book. So like, it was just kind of crazy. Like, I read other books by Palahniuk and I was like, oh, I love this, I love this, I love this. And as I was looking up like books he wrote, Fight Club came up and I was like, are we serious? I'd read 2 books by Chuck Palahniuk before I realized he was the author of my favorite movie. But the reason this one goes so low is because I ruined it for myself. I'm convinced that if you watch a movie before you read the book, you'll like the movie more than the book, or if you read the book before you watch the movie, you're gonna like the book more than the movie. Because it's what you want the other one to follow. And because I watched the movie first and I have such a love for the movie, the book didn't hit for me. Also because I knew the plot twist, so I was able to see it, and it wasn't as cool and jaw-dropping as when I first saw the movie. Don't get me wrong, amazing writing, amazing quotes, amazing everything. I loved Fight Club, but I like the movie more because I watched it more and I ruined it for myself, and that is why it's number 10 on my list. But yeah, I know people are gonna be like, this is insane, but I have other books that I loved more than I loved Fight Club, and that's because I love the movie first. So number 10 for Chuck Palahniuk, shock to all of us, Fight Club. Okay, now the stakes are high because I just released Fight Club, so if Fight Club's out, these better be damn good books, and you know what? They are damn good books. So next, as my number 9 position, I have Damned. Damned is the first book to Doomed, which I put lower down on my list. This follows a little girl who goes to hell and she meets she goes to hell and she meets a bunch of like fun characters, and then her life is crazy because she's like a billionaire. Let me just read you the back. Madison is the 13-year-old daughter of a narcissistic film star and billionaire. Abandoned by her Swiss boarding school for Christmas, she dies over the holiday, presumably of a marijuana overdose. The last thing she remembers is getting into a town car and falling asleep. Then she's waking up in hell, literally. There's so many fun characters in this. There's so many fun antidotes. The quotes are amazing. I flew through this book in 2 days, literally 2 days. That means it's an amazing book. It sticks with me. I think about it all the time. That is why it's above Fight Club, because it doesn't have to be compared with any other thing. As I said, the second book is only lower because it's pretty much a copy and paste of this book, and I liked this book more. Trying to figure out the mystery of how did she actually die? Was it a marijuana overdose or was it something else? As well as the other side characters and who can you trust, and learning how the other people got to hell as well. Just such a fun antidote book, and it's hilarious. Hilarious, dark, just my type of book altogether. So in my number 9 position, I have Damned. Okay, number 8 is the weirdest book I have ever read in my entire life. I don't think anything will ever get weirder than this, and you know what? Let's just reveal her. Number 8 is Beautiful You. Now, looks harmless to me. No, it is not harmless. Nothing about this is harmless. Let's just say there's a Himalayan sex witch. This book basically, it follows a man whose goal is to create the ultimate sex toy to please women, and in turn is replacing men in society because his sex toys are better than any man could ever be. The back reads, 1 billion husbands are about to be replaced. And they are. There's like a Himalayan sex witch, and it follows the woman who's like dating this man, and she's trying to figure out like she starts out as like this experiment. Like, he's just using her as an experiment to see how pleasurable his products are. And he learned all this from a Himalayan sex witch. And it's crazy. You know what? I'm spewing things and you guys are probably like, what the hell is she saying? Exactly. Pick it up. You need to read it. It's kind of short and it's a wild ride. It's hilarious. It's insane. Nothing's out of bounds on this. It's sexy. I don't know if we can call it sexy, but that might be a stretch. But I love this book. Think about it all the time, obviously, because it's so obscure and weird and you wouldn't expect it. It was literally like one I was like, I don't know if I want to pick this up. Like, I put it off for so long because it was like, And then I read it and look at it. Number 8. It's above Fight Club. Like, Did not expect that. Also, I didn't get the softcover. This is my only other hardcover, and I'm kind of mad about it. One day I will own them all in softcover, which most people want them in hardcover, but I don't, you know? Insane book. I recommend to any strange person out there, because this is amazing. So number 8, Beautiful You. Y'all, I think I messed up my count. I have 6 left, and that was just number 8. So this would be 7, but there's 6 left. So this is actually number 6. Yeah, I fucked up my count. I'm so sorry. We're gonna move one down. I will probably put the actual numbers up here somewhere. So that is my bad. I do not know how to count. It's because I'm trying to do this in reverse order, and I should have gone like 1 to 22, but that's not as anticipatory. So anyways, so we're actually on number 6, not number 7. That is my bad. So this is number 6. And for number 6, we have Survivor. Okay, this book, so as I said, Palahniuk likes to do a lot of cool things. If you've seen Fight Club, you know it ends how it begins. So the beginning is the end, and then it does the full movie, and then it gets back to that. Well, this is the same thing. This follows a man who is on a plane, and he is recording his story on a black box. So, you know, once the book ends, the plane crashes. So the page numbers, they go backwards. So you start on page 200, and then you go to page 1. That is crazy. That's crazy cool, because you know time is running out. You know this plane is going to crash at the end of the book. There's no secret about that. But you're like, will he get a story out? Will he get to tell what he wants to tell? And it follows this man who he basically obsesses himself over looking good and becoming the most male love interest type of, like, the most perfect man. And he gets all these surgeries, he gets all these things, and it's basically how he regrets his whole life. And it's so good. I just love the idea of, at the end of this book, he's dead. Like, the black box, this is a black box recording. He's already dead by the time this has been written, but I don't know. There's so many good quotes. There's so many good things. I read this when I was on a camping trip, and I think that also kind of adds to my nostalgia and love for it. Let me read a couple quotes. Okay, this is one of them. You realize that our mistrust of the future makes it hard to give up the past. Reality means you live until you die, the agent says. The real truth is nobody wants reality. Yeah, it's basically this guy, he's outrunning his life and aging and trying to become the perfect person, and he can't. And that is the end of this book. And so many of his, almost all of, if not all of his books have hidden meanings about society and about how things are crafted in the world we live. And this book is no exception, and I obsessed. Like, love it, love it, love it. Think about it all the time. And it was just so creative and different that, I don't know, this is number 6 for a good reason. Okay, number 5. This one, kind of a hidden gem. I do not hear a lot of people talking about this one. Probably if you know Palahniuk, you're gonna be like, I don't think I've heard of that one, and why is it so high up? I ate this up. I think about this all the time. Number 5 is Pygmy. Yeah, probably never heard of it, but I loved it so much. I will say, some of his books have interesting things. This one is written in gibberish. It's gibberish that you can understand, but it's hard to understand, if that makes sense. Like, let me try to find something about it. Let me give you like a little taste of how this doesn't make sense, but it kind of makes sense. Host brother fashions own hand shape of revolver gun. Aim finger to direction, the agent says. Trust me, Pygmy. The model union's nation is social suicide. Fashion half own mouth, so make smile. With eyes rest on sister. Pig dog says. So it's like, it's written not in English, but in English, which makes it so impressive. The entire book is written like this. Like, it's comprehensible, but it's not correct English. And it's like, the words are out of order of what they should be, or we're missing ands and twos and buts, and we're missing congregations. Like, but it makes sense. And that's what makes it so interesting. And it's so, like, this book is also very shocking. A lot of things. We got a bunch of quick quotes from, like, Hitler in here. A lot of things. This one's like antidote is, they would say, most of my tabs are also these. They'll be like quote, and then they'll write a quote. That's what most of these are, because they're good quotes. But let me read you the back just so you can get a feel for this. Agent number 67, nicknamed Pygmy for his diminutive size, arrives in the United States from his totalitarian homeland. An exchange student, he is welcomed with open arms by his Midwestern host family. Simpsons spin-offs, they introduce him to the rituals of postmodern American life, which he views with utter contempt. Along with his fellow operatives, he is planning something big, something truly, truly awful to bring this big, dumb country's fat inhabitants to their knees. There's also parts of this book that are like blacked out, like it's a secret thing you're not supposed to be reading. This book is so creative and so different that I think about it all the time. It did take a second to get used to how to read it, because as I said, it's not English, but it's English, so it took me a second. But once I got it down, I ate this up. There's so many quotes in here that are amazing. There's so many interesting anecdotes, so many fucked up things. It's just funny. It's good. It's creative. That is why it is number 5 on my list. Okay, number 4. We're getting down the wire here. Number 4 is Stranger Than Fiction. This is a nonfiction collection of short stories from Palahniuk's life and how he gets inspiration for his stories. This is where I learned about the fact that he actually went to support groups and that a lot of the support group ideas he has are real, and he talks about more of those in here. He talks about going to like demolition derbies, which he used in another book that I will get to later, and like a bunch of other interesting, cool things that has gone on in his life. And this just kind of cemented him as my favorite author in my life, because he gets his writing ideas from real people, from real experiences, from real things. He's not just under a rock like, oh, let me create this thing. He goes out and does research and just like watches people. He's a people watcher to the core, and he uses it to make amazing pieces of literature. And overall, this book, if you like Palahniuk at all, this is a must read. It's gonna cement your love for him. It's gonna just put him on this higher pedestal than you originally had him on, and it's just such an interesting man. If I could have a dinner party and I could pick any person's brain, dead or alive, Palahniuk would 110% be it. Because of this book, I just want to know more. I want to know more, and I had that opportunity to talk to him. Did I do it? No, I froze. But that's okay, it was a book signing. He didn't have shoes on. You know what? We did what we did, but yes. So number 4 is Stranger Than Fiction. Okay. We've made it to the top 3. Are we crazy? This is crazy. This is crazy. I wonder where the new book will fall. I'm 100% going to do an unboxing and reading vlog for that because I need to. But yes, let's go to the top 3. In our 3rd position, we have 3 and 2. It took me I think I thought about it for at least like 10 minutes. Like, which one do I want to put above the other one? Because one, you'll see. I'll explain when I show them. But in our number 3 position, we have Invisible Monsters. This is my most tabbed book I own. I absolutely obsessed. The first time I read this book, like I would put it down and just think on it. Like the quotes that are in this book and like the plot twist at the end, insane. I'm not gonna spoil it, but this basically follows a girl whose face has been hideously mangled, and she's trying to live in this world where like everybody sees her as a monster. And she meets this girl, and this girl's trying to like help her, and this girl's gorgeous, like the prettiest girl you've ever seen in your life, and she's trying to help this girl who's been mangled to find her inner beauty. And there's a huge plot twist at the end, and I loved it. Like, I loved it so much. I want to reread this book. The quotes in this book, everything in this book just cemented it. One of my top 10 books of all time, 100% right here. Oh God, see, now I'm doubting my my top 2. I'm doubting which one should be in 3rd and which one should be in 2nd. But I'm not gonna tie them. We're gonna keep this one. We're gonna keep it in 3, only because the other one has more nostalgia than this one does. But I loved it. So many quotes in this book that I think about all the time. I really want to do a reread of this book because I'm sure I'll love it 10 times more the second time around. But yeah, number 3 is Invisible Monsters. Okay, number 2, yet again, toss up. It holds no more nostalgia, and that is why it's going to be higher up. Number 2 is Rant. This book, hear me out, Hear me out. This was the second other Palahniuk book I read, and I remember it was really early on in COVID when I was before COVID, I never read a book. I hated reading. I wouldn't touch a book. But during COVID, I kind of lost it and I had nothing better to do. So I used to go outside at nights and I would read 15 pages of a book. And this was one of the first books I picked up. And I just remember I sat out there one day for 3 hours. 3 hours. I was meant to read 15 pages and I ended up reading like 50 or 60. Like, I was so invested in this book. And that's the first time a book has really done that to me. So that is why this one gets a second place. This follows a man named Rant Casey, and he has kind of like a cult following him. He has rabies and he likes to spread his rabies. I know, right? And then they do this thing called party crashing. Party crashing is essentially they put fun things on their car and then they drive around, and if other people have fun things on their car, like either like a Christmas tree or a just married sign, then they have a right to hit each other. This is in Stranger Than Fiction. Chuck talked about how the demolition derby inspired this, and that's so cool to me, especially because I love this book so much. Anyways, but yes, and it follows Rant, and he has like a cult following. This book is also written really interesting because it's written by people's POVs and you get their statements. So like it'll start with one person's statement. So the story kind of jumps all around, but in the end it ties itself nice with a bow. So yes, Rant is in our number 2 position because of the nostalgia and the fact that this was one of the first books that actually sucked me in. Number one is no surprise. Like, I should have, if I didn't talk about my number 1 in literally every video I make, it would be like more, oh wow, that's crazy. But I talk about this book all the time because it's the first Palahniuk book I read, and it is what sucked me in and basically made me read everything else he has ever written. Now, this one didn't suck me in as good as Rant, but I love it more because of the ending, and that is haunted. Are we surprised? We've seen this one in every video I've ever made. Sorry about that. Anyways, don't have to go over what this is about. It's a writing retreat, and there's a bunch of fucked up stories in this. But the reason I think it took me 4 or 5 months to read this book because I would read just one story every night, or I would skip things. But I took this on vacation. I took this book a lot of places, and it was the first Palahniuk book I picked up, and I fell in love with his writing through this. And then the ending, I cannot get over this ending. Oh, it really, I ranted about this book. Rant? Second book? Anyways, I ranted about this book to literally anybody in my family that would listen, because this was also during COVID, about the ending, about what this meant, about just the more profound nature that it had. As I said, most of his books, they tend to have a little bit of a deeper meaning, and this one is no exception, and that just shocked me because I was used to reading like very surface level books. But the commentary this one had, on top of being an amazing horror novel, I was hooked, and obviously I've now read everything he's ever written. And that is my reading and ranked for all of the Chuck Palahniuk books. I'm a fan. Crazy. I cannot wait for his next book to come out. I've already pre-ordered it. It's been shipped today, and I'm over the moon excited about it. But yes, if you are a Palahniuk fan, leave your favorite down below. If you're not a Palahniuk fan, I urge you to pick up one of these books. You can pick up any one in the order, any of them that sound interesting. I guarantee if you read it, you'll fall in love with his writing. Unless you don't like grotesque things, then don't touch them. Just stay away from him, because he will write about a lot of things. But yeah, if there's anybody else who is this big of a fan, I'd love to meet them, because I would love to talk for hours about his writing. But yes, thank you so much for watching, and look out for the reading and unboxing vlog for Shock Induction. And it's out everywhere now. So, free promo for this man, because I will promo anything he writes. I would read this man's toilet paper, quite frankly. Anyways, I hope you have a good rest of your evening, or your day, whenever you're watching this, and I will see you in my next one. Goodbye!